So now I get to the section. I'd already, like I said before, I should have checked the vocals earlier, but I checked it and I checked the parts I was given for this remix. And there were some pads. I kind of like to use pads and breakdowns. I don't really use them when I'm doing this sound in the main body of the track, but I always try and look for ways to incorporate them by manipulating them or something. So the pad that I got was this. So which I've used, which you'll hear in a minute, I've used that in the breakdown. But I was trying to figure out a way to use it in the mix as well. So firstly, I picked just a holding chord rather than it going around the whole lot. So I just had this going. Oh, that's not doing what I want it to. Oh, no, that's the wrong bit. Sorry, excuse me. Here. So I chopped it so it's just revolving around this part, and then it just has a little turn around. And then my other favourite weapon of choice is the camel space. And I use the step sequencer a lot on this because it's a really good way of gating up things and just creating interesting sounds, from something you've got. So I put this through the step sequencer and created this. But I've kind of done a little bit of extra on this, so that's just the pad going through and being chopped. But then what I did is I used the MMF filter with the resonance up really high to create a kind of a melody out of the resonance that I was using. If you look at the automation here, the filter cutoffs are going up and down, and it's creating so it's doing that. I've also got that going to probably my favourite reverb for just big room space, which is the Fabric. It's just great because you just drag around these until you've got a sound that you're happy with, which is great. We like those sort of things. And yeah, so it's created this kind of cool sound. It's not going to take up so much room in the mix now because it's not a solid pad, and it'll sit, and it was something that just gave it that last bit of lift out of the main drop. So in the mix it kind of goes. Or earlier on without the other synth going on. See here, the cut-offs moving up and down to create that effect. And then with the rest of the pad, I used it in the breakdown, the full pad. But again, what I do, it's something that I quite enjoy doing, is I put a filter across it, so I can eventually, everything from the breakdown will either thin out or get deeper, but some change. So you create a contrast. I mean, the biggest thing about this, music in general, I think really is creating those contrast moments that really have an impact, and especially where you comes to drop in a track like this. So. as you can probably see, I've got a fair amount of different automations going on across this. This is just all a filter. Then I've got some delay feedback, I've got a send, and I've got the camel space. I've got another camel space setting that's going to twist up the pad as it comes towards the end of the breakdown. So if I just play the pad, so here it's filtering up. And now the camel space is starting to work its magic. Does that kind of thing. If I play the full effect with the vocals into that part. This is how my heart breaks together. This is how my heart breaks forever and ever. You tear me apart, you're breaking my heart forever and ever. This is how my What I also like to do is play around a lot with reverbs, going from dry to wet with sounds, because it just in a club it sounds great. You know, you got this sort of big wash, and then it gets really tight when the groove locks in again. So with that, you know, with the sound that I was showing you earlier here, there's a reverb that builds up on this, but there's also a very short delay. You can hear. And then it gets tightens up again. Lastly, we've got the effects, but generally speaking with the effects, I mean, a lot of the effects that I use are from Vengeance House and stuff like that, and I'm sure that's been talked about loads in other articles you've done. So there's a few that I've made myself, just using kind of, you know, Predator and various things. It's really good as well when you're using effects to, if you come up with something, save it, put it into your EXS sample banks. You've always got it, because it's just great to keep everything you've done. I even now, when I'm doing MIDI patterns and stuff, I save the MIDI grooves into a folder, and then they're there, and you can pull them out and then play around with them and change them around, and it just gives you a good starting point sometimes. Also, if you come up, you know, you come up with a setting you like on a channel, always save it in the settings here, save the channel strip as, and have a library again. It's a really good way to work.